Okay, so we're going to begin with Pakistan Studies Paper 2, The Environment of Pakistan, October-November 2017. Now, the first question is about a photograph which shows different patterns and arrangements within a closely knit city of the urban area of Islamabad. So, the thing that you have to mention are any three qualities within that picture. So for the sake of the answer, we will be writing down the qualities that might be required. For instance, there is an irregular pattern. There is there are small buildings and houses in the picture, and there is a lack of vegetation. So these would constitute as a good enough answer. Now, in part 2, you're supposed to suggest why people move into areas such as that shown in photograph A. So this is a general run-of-the-mill question, which basically means that how urbanization works and how are people attracted by major cities from coming from smaller towns. So it is basically to be closer to work, there are better housing facilities, and they are close to services such as electricity, gas, and a proper sewage system. Now, part B, shortage of food is one of the reasons why people move away from rural areas. Give two reasons why there might be shortage of food in rural areas. So there could be a number of reasons, so you can pick any. For instance, there is a lack of irrigation, because for rural areas constant irrigation is one of the major things that needs to happen, and if there is no irrigation happening in a constant consistent manner, the crops will eventually die. So due to that, people then have a shortage of food. Now the second thing could be a lack of education on the part of the farmers. Like if they are not that well acquainted with which crops to grow and when to grow them, there will obviously be a miscalculation and crops won't grow on time. So therefore there will be a shortage of food, and then they will have to move. Now in part 2, now in part 2, describe the ways that human factors can improve the production of livestock farming in Pakistan. There are a number of ways again, and you can talk about different things. For instance, there can be an increase in the fodder of crops. They could be provided with more grazing land, and there can be government support with regards to development funds. So all of this would constitute a proper response. Now, in part C, you have to study the figure which is in front of you about the population and generally calculate the death rate. So, the answer would be around 9.3 to 9.5, a respectable answer. How has the death rate changed between 2000 and 2014? It has basically decreased, as the graph shows that there is a downward curve, and give one reason why death rate has changed over this period. There are better, more efficient ways that have been introduced, so better healthcare, better medication, improved standard of living. So all of these things constitute to the decrease in death rate. Then you have the question which states, explain the impacts of this change in death to the Pakistan. You should develop your answer. So obviously, elaborate on a point and then take it from there. So population increase, there is congestion, higher crime rate, pollution has increased due to more cars on the road. So all of these things are impacting. There is more people now are in the job market and there are not many jobs to give. So all of these things are impacting on Pakistan's overall economy. Now we have rapid population growth and rural urban migration lead to pressure on housing in urban areas of Pakistan. Read the following views about two ways to solve the housing problems in urban areas. Number A, the government should provide funding, and then you have the government should provide funding for rural areas to prevent migration from rural urban areas. Now, both these points, number one, the government should provide funding to improve poor quality housing in urban areas, and the government should provide funding in rural areas to prevent migration from rural to urban areas, are points worth consideration. And you can always talk about for A and against it, give few points for that, few points for against, and then similarly for B and against B, so that you have both sides. Now, with regards to for A, you would talk about some self-help schemes and renovating and loans to build houses, all of those things that the government can do. Against would be that there is too much of a cost, there is high cost for all of this. There is the size is immense, you cannot actually fit, and there is no survey of the areas that can be done easily. Surveys are not easy. So these are the things that go against government providing funding to improve poor quality housing. Now for B, the government should provide funding to rural areas to prevent migration. So for B is there has to be electrification of those rural areas, so that there is one of the basic necessities, which is electricity, should be provided in those areas so that they don't move from one place to another. Then you have roads, proper sewage, other infrastructure such as water. So there is easy resource available for such things. Against would be that the overall pull factor of an urban area is way too great. And another thing could be that there is a control of the landlords which does not allow them to leave. So all of those things can go in the points for against. Now in question number 2, there is a figure which is a flow diagram of the cement industry which goes from coal to the factory and then cement. What is the ingredient that is missing? Here is the ingredient which is limestone. And give one example of primary, secondary, and tertiary employment in the so primary job related to mining, tertiary sales, advertising, till driving, and secondary is manufacturing. Then you have part 3, the cement industry is an example of a formal industry. State 3 characteristics of employment in the formal sector of industry, which is registered with the government. It's skilled workforce and it's trained and it fixes the wages. Part B, name two fuels which are imported in large quantities by Pakistan. So two of those are crude and coal. Explain the disadvantages to Pakistan of importing large amounts of natural resources. You should develop your answer. Now, these are some of the points which you then elaborate and expand as per the directives within the question. So it basically discourages development of Pakistan's own natural resource sector because it's dependent on other countries, and therefore that dependence then leads to adverse effect on Pakistan's economy, and there's also limited international trade link which also hampers all of that growth. Now the C part shows a map in which the first mm, option you have to highlight is the cities which are being marked. So the cities are Hyderabad in Sindh and Quetta in Balochistan. It shows the general population map of the south in Pakistan. Now name one area of low population density shown on figure 3. So you have the third desert could be one of the regions which can be mentioned as part of low density area. Then describe three human factors that cause some areas to have a low population density due to lack of education or healthcare, lack of jobs or employment opportunities, and lack of infrastructure that leads for difficult living conditions. Then D again, it's a view part. The question is there are many influences on industrial growth at the national level in Pakistan. Read the following two views. Government projects, policies, and support have the greatest influence on the growth of industries. Option point B says energy shortages, the security situation, and natural disasters have the greatest influence on the growth of industries. Which view do you agree with more? Give reasons to support your answer and refer to examples you have studied. Now, for view A, industrial policy and taxation is one of the reasons, and investment is another. Against is the mismanagement and also in invest inconsistent government policies. For shortage of electricity and security issues, against there is damage and cost of security. Now, 3. Name the species of fish reared on a fish farm. You can name any, but trout is a good example if there is one. Give two uses for the products of the fish farms, poultry feed and protein source. Describe the methods used to rear fish. Man-made ponds, lined concrete base, selective breeding programs. Now, part B shows a figure. Changes in farm size in Pakistan between 1980 to 2010. In which year was the percentage of farms under 5? As per the figure shows, it's 1980. Identify the two main changes. So under 5, 74 to 89 degrees, and then 5 to 20, 24 to 10 degrees. Suggest a reason for one of the changes you have identified. Under 5, increasing subdivision of family plots because of inheritance laws. Explain how farm size can affect production in farms. You should develop your answers. So you talk about large farms and small farms, that how for small farms higher portion wastage, longer time to harvest, less able to grow crops for sale. For larger farms, farming inefficient or not all of land cultivated. So all of that goes into the general idea. Now for part C, you have named the crop shown in the photograph. You have a photograph which is showing the bajra. So part C of question number 3, study photograph. There's be a photograph which is showing the crop that is shown in this photograph is bajra. Give one reason why this crop can be grown in many areas of Pakistan. Because this crop can be grown because it will grow in dry semi-arid areas. Describe one natural requirement in high yield of this crop. The soil should not be waterlogged. Now, sugarcane is an important crop grown in Pakistan. Suggests two reasons why there is an increase in demand. There is rapid increase in population. That is why an increase in per capita consumption of sugar is also one of the reasons. Now, a huge area, 4 to 7 million hectares, or one-fifth to one-third of total agriculture area of Pakistan has seen yields decrease or crops completely lost due to waterlogging and salinity. Evaluate whether it is possible to prevent agricultural land being damaged by waterlogging and salinity. Give reasons to support your judgment and refer to examples you have studied. You should consider different points in your answer. So the possible thing is leaving part of the land hollow and line temporary closure canals and install tube wells which will actually drain the water out of it and actually take water out from the soil. Not possible because there is too much cost for maintaining. Farmers continue to over irrigate and there is lack of access to water in certain areas. So these were the questions for paper 2 of October November 2017. Thank you.